I've never wanted to be responsible for the consequences of other people's decision making. And I think this is something that has been fundamentally motivating for me pretty much throughout my entire life. I think, when we talk about risk taking and decision making, even in general, most people are very caught up in not rocking the boat and not tapping into unfamiliarity or unknown waters or whatever it may be. And I think when we think about the risk aspect of that, we see the decision to do something or stepping into something or stepping away from something as being the risk assumption, but we kind of ignore the risk that is involved or assumed with complacency and with not looking outward or seeing kind of what's next or having that kind of aggressive mindset, so to speak. My path, my compass is a really meaningful and purposeful statement for me, and something that I've tried to kind of adhere to for the better part of my adult life. And I think for me it kind of breaks down like this, where my path, my compass, I see as the compass being my purpose and kind of my ambitions in a sense, and I'm always, that compass is always just trying to fight its way towards that purpose or that due north. And in that regard, the path becomes my intentionality. So I have this desire or this purpose or this thing that I'm aspiring for, and I'm given some level of boundary and constraint to this route for me to get there. But one thing that I always have control and autonomy over is my intentionality. So tying that into a more practical sense, when Nicole and I decided to leave Virginia Beach and move to Texas, I say her and I, but really that was a more of a me decision. Nothing about risk ever really crossed my mind. And bear in mind, we were leaving a really good situation. We had family around. I had a great job at VHP. She had some really great, people in her weightlifting community. And we had, no purpose for leaving per se. But I got a call and got, led into one little opportunity down here, and knowing nothing else or anybody else, I flew down, and I had a 6-hour window to find a house, and we ended up getting something, and 6 weeks later we were closing on our house in Virginia Beach and moving down here. And Nicole was 7 months pregnant. And it's kind of funny now, because at the time, again, there was never even an inkling of risk, or is this, a good idea with the timing and blah, blah, blah. But I never fucking thought about it. And telling people, how we made our way out here after the fact, and just kind of seeing their response, and, oh shit, like that, that's a big risk or big, decision to make. To me, it was a very simple thing, because I go back to my purpose and my intentionality. And while I had a great job that I thoroughly loved, I knew that there was something else that I was, ambitious towards, and I needed to figure out what that was and scratch that itch. And, so in this regard, it was closer to my due north, and we pushed all in on that. I think some of this shit is just, kind of characteristic to us, and we have certain traits and certain things that, for whatever reason, we have an inclination for, or even just that we adhere to and live by. And for me, I go back to what I started with, where I don't want to be held responsible for the consequences of other people's decision making. I feel like in terms of like talent, skill set, knowledge, I don't feel like I was really fucking gifted a lot. Like I've been very dedicated to things that I enjoy or that I love. I tend to work pretty hard on them or towards them. But, for me, there wasn't a lot of like real natural aptitude. But one thing I've figured out along the way is that you can kind of craft and create your strengths to be valuable for other people. And in doing so, you create more of an appeal and more of a demand and more of a marketability in a sense. And with especially the world that we live in now, and with the way that information is available and shared, fucking anybody can learn just about anything, man. And I've relied very heavily on that, and that's a big driving factor to why I feel inclined to produce shit now. Is that is exactly how I really got even my starter opportunity with any of this strength training or human performance stuff. But staying on track, you really don't have an excuse to not do whatever the fuck it is you want to do, as long as you are not bound by the social construct or expectation of, what we are quote unquote supposed to do. Do no harm to others, don't interfere with anybody, and mind your business are inherent rules in anything. But, with this, like, I don't feel like I've really been able to ever separate myself from anybody else for any reason, except for the fact that I just do not compromise on whatever it is I feel I want or I need. And along the way, I just kind of figure shit out and accumulate the resources or the network that I need to facilitate whatever outcome it is I'm trying to pursue. And there's stress in everything, man. And I've lived, some different contrasting lifestyles since I've, have been an adult since 18. And there's compromise with everything. But I feel like with this situation that we've created now, speaking mostly to this last 2 years of our lives, we have full control of our situation. And at 34 years old, that's just really not a common thing for people to be able to say. And I feel extremely grateful for that. But my purpose with this point in this message is that if you are, somebody who feels entrapped by this constraint, or you feel like, shit just doesn't go your way or isn't going your way, or, you're waiting on this like opportune, perfect time or whatever, man, fuck all that. I think that, there's, with very little exception, it is a blank canvas, and the professional space is especially evident of this, where, again, with the way in which media and information and skill and labor are transactioned and produced in today's world, we have a greater reach than ever before. We have greater accessibility than ever before. So if you can develop a skill set that is of value to somebody else, you can kind of create your own route in getting there. And of course, again, it comes with compromise. I've gotten my fucking ass beat over the last 2 years for the better part of it. But, this ownership and this autonomy that it produces is something that I wouldn't trade for anything. And I think that whether we're talking about professional career paths, we're talking about personal lifestyles, we're talking about hobbies and interests, or we're talking about the way that we train humans, there's a lot of room for interpretation. And I think if you are continuously led by whatever it is that you wake up and can't live without, and you absolutely have to keep chipping away at it, identify what that is, understand how it becomes valuable for others, and then figure out how to produce and transmit that, and just be very intentional in the decisions that you make along this route, living within whatever your constraints may be, and then having intentionality towards connecting those two dots.